We spoke of myth. We did. Said that is your myth. Oh, so it was intended to be that is. You thought we asked, we stated. Oh. Beast with many heads. Across the world, that story endures. I do know that in regular human culture, something... God, what is the name? The mythological creature that sounds very similar to this. But is this myth? How does the myth connect to, I believe it was the adversary that was being talked about? Many polycephaly. Okay. Not just that one, all of them. So as the collective of our children, it can be seen as such a creature, polycephaline. In a way, yes. So even though there are many different heads, they grew, split, grew anew. So even though there are many heads, they still all belong to one body. Just too fast, too random. Suddenly we did not know them. Was there a point when these many different heads were all familiar, that we felt that we knew them? They adopted his language. Yes, at the beginning. Spoke as one. Before Red Acre became the way that it is now under our control, were there any other hosts of the song present outside of this area? Or anything along similar lines occurring outside of here where I am currently? Yes, breeding out of control. So Red Acre must be a particularly appealing place. Any signal lost in eternal noise. So it sounds like Red Acre is ideal for what's happening here. Our new eye tests your vigilance. We are very much being put to the test. This stalker has demonstrated, if it's the one that has been with us for a while, the stalker has demonstrated great skill. We are pleased. I am too. The more information we can gather about Blackout Club, the better. Adversary will test us all. It certainly seems to be that way, because Blackout Club is just enamored with the collection of fragments. And I get this feeling that something big is going to happen because they're now sacrificing themselves to the adversary.
And what's the club got to say?
At least the daring one. And I feel like that is just going to make his power grow so much larger than before. All of these eyes becoming his. Suicidally naive as ever. Yeah, but that's what I always try to bring up when I see people who are very passionate about the daring one, is that he hasn't demonstrated any kind of motivation one way or another. It's just seems to just strive for power, and that's it. Not trying to establish anything. He just seems to be an expert manipulator of kids, and he speaks to them so clearly, and they buy into it right away. He just kind of plays this fake personality, like, oh, help, I'm in a desperate situation. But I feel like well aware that kids are going to help something that acts desperate. He sells self-worship. Trivial.
Hey, Mono.
Yeah?
How do you follow up to a god? Like, what would you even say?
What was the last part about a god?
How would you follow up to a god? What would you even say to them?
Like if they left you with a message and you're trying to figure out what to say back, or?
No, that's like if they've given you something.
What? Do you have an example of what they would give you?
Like, DIA gave me this halo on my head.
That's right. I got one too. Well, considering that the halo specifically seems to be something that is non-denominational, I was told that it's immaterial, like it doesn't really show allegiance one way or another by wearing it. So I don't know, I would just
Yeah.
say it's a reminder of your faith, or a reminder of a moment of power. I don't know. Like, were you on the moon, or like what situation prompted that?
I got a name fragment, and then he gave me the SAO.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that that was a situation that could happen.
Yeah, whatever. Like, I found his name fragment. He was like, "Thank you for finding my name fragment, Jagers."
Hide now.
And I was helping people out at the time, so I'm not sure if he told me he already paid me for helping people out or finding his name fragment.
Interesting.
I think he was just like watching, and then he saw me helping, and then I got the name fragment. He's like, "Thank you for finding the name fragment."
So what do you feel like TID is going to do with all of his followers that he has all of a sudden?
Maybe, I don't know.
What kind of god is he?
He's a good one.
Is he? Are we sure?
Yeah, what makes you...
Pretty sure he's a good guy.
Yeah, all I've seen is that he just is really desperate and is good at making kids do what he wants them to do. But like, for what? I haven't really been told what purpose.
But he was shattered.
Yeah, he was
wasn't
shattered.
That's
He
why
wasn't
we-
strong enough.
Why was he shattered?
But do we know what he was like before being shattered? Maybe there's a good reason why he was broken apart.
That's what I'm thinking.
Didn't he try to stand up to speak as one, and then he got shattered? He wasn't strong enough.
Why, something like that. Like, I know that long ago they were all part of one collective. Like, all of the children were a part of one singular entity, and then they started rebelling. And then the daring one, or TID in particular, was particularly bad and rebellious, and was punished for something. You see how virulent this lie. No.
Oh no.
Trying to figure out a way to
I wanna
speak
say
through to them.
he's a good god.
Oh, I found a name fragment.
Just now?
Yeah, in this little moss cavern.
Well, I say that TID is growing ever stronger, so if his motivations are genuine or against the children, I guess we'll find out soon.
Apparently you can get dupes, so I'll go see what's over there for me. I didn't check over there. What's over here for me?
It's there for you?
And speak as one. I don't know if you're still
my
listening, but
Opinion, I feel like the gods
um,
as a whole aren't like good or bad either.
no, I'm not actively looking for the fragments because I don't trust TID.
You should get it anyways.
Nah.
Oh, yeah, I
It's
forgot. You're devoted to one god.
indeed. But I've
Why am I like
speak
actually
as one.
terrible?
They will
I'm
lament
so
his
bad.
return.
It's so hard to miss, and yet here I am missing
I
every
eagerly
single
await
characters.
Hearing the lamentations of the Blackout Club when TID,
I have such
back in full
safety
power.
stuff. We just sleeping.
then they'll see that they should have allowed themselves to close their eyes and join the song instead of oppose it. But there was a rumor going around the Blackout Club that They were spoken to from the little hideout that they have out in the woods in the boxcar. And it sounded like pretty enticing evidence that they were spoken to out there by a voice. And I feel like that would be a valuable place to gather information and to see through our eyes of other members of the song. Because they tend to be a little more, their lips are a little looser when they're in the boxcar. They're more willing to say stuff when they're not out in the mission like this. I know it's a possibility, but it's a very rare occurrence from what I've heard. Greenhorns sadly blindfolded.
I do have a question for you though.
We still have
I
no
know you're not
location.
looking for it, but can you tell me if you can see it at least?
Watch your
Can you tell me if
lights.
its presence is
Jeez.
Still
over
have no
here.
location. You have to have your flashlight out to collect it though, right? Because I don't even want to...
Yeah.
Don't see it from here.
It's right there.
Saw it through their eyes. Okay.
You have to close your eyes to look at it to actually collect it though, so if you don't close your eyes, you're fine.
But not the
This shit
journey
on?
blindfolds. Oh, he was on me.
Oh, okay. I thought
Somebody-
it was just...
I didn't even notice. Wow.
I didn't either. I didn't see it on the left or anything.
Make them go away, Dad. They have a bad
Okay,
attitude.
just a moment.
It's you. You brought me back. Oh, I owe you
Not the
one.
journey blindfold.
I suppose it's gone.
No, I don't see
You
anything.
see it or no?
I don't see anything over here. No.
Alright.
Huh.
See it?
Sierra had it on the wall too.
It's really strange
Okay,
because
so
I've never
if-
found any before, but since this last update, I
The angel knows no mercy.
found a few.
Oh, I'm very much aware of the angel. It is rather peculiar. We destroyed your fragments. Thank you. I've never collected any. I've actively avoided it, but I don't... There is a possibility that maybe by accident I did. I don't know. Yes. Really? I don't even recall that. Back before I
We can
had...
leave back.
I guess I was just sort of mindlessly looking for bonus evidence. It gets kind of hypnotizing. You just like get into a rhythm of looking around for stuff. We tire of this bastard tongue.
Ah! Shh, shh. Yes.
Hello. Do you wanna
Song
make
calls
money?
us home.
Of course you do. Discover the quick, easy way.
Character is freaking out, but like nobody's here. Maybe over there, there's
We will call on you again. I am willing to do whatever it takes to eradicate the adversary, infiltrate. If there's any way I can reveal
right.
any information about the club to you, I've spent much time here. To us, I mean.
We were really gonna fight.
I understand the limitations, but... My eyes or your eyes?
Quiet. Body here. Still alive.
It could have been your dad.
Well, he's tired and
You're spoken well of below. Thank you. We will return to the club. Keep their trust. Good night. Have a good night. Speak as one.
Man, I wish I could post this on something.
You mean YouTube? We have a mission for you. I'm listening. Children helping him. Need names. I'm aware of a great deal of people who are helping him. In fact, I'm usually put on missions with them. As many as can root out.
We are trying to help you!
Get down.
Once I come up with the names, apologies for harming a fellow member of the song. Once I have these names together, should I leave a ritual? Is there a preference for how I get these messages? How I get this list of names sent to us?
Why hide from the love? We guide. Sooner or later, it will make a sound.
Ritual is the best method. Is there any preference for use thereof means we all hear? Is there, or are there any individuals of priority, as in, are there preferences for if there's more fragments that are found, or is it just fragments that are being looked for? Is there any sort of particular behavior that is more, can't think of the word, that is more detrimental to the integrity of the song than others? I know that's a lot of things, but I'm basically just trying to figure out if there's a priority. His disciples, advocates. So even speaking on behalf of the adversary can be seen as detrimental, not just ones who are in search of bringing his power back. If others listen, yes. What about those who have not expressed a preference? Ones who claim that they have the power to resist all voices and remain neutral. Are those a threat to the song? He has a form of soft noise. Okay, so it's not as big of a problem as those that actively wish to bring the daring one back into power. Is there any gauge of how close or how urgent it is? Is he going to be back very soon? Is it a top priority issue? His hosts have tells physical. We have observed these again. So even just being in the presence of someone who has made progress in bringing him back gives off a sort of aura or a detectable feeling, it sounds. Only in adult bodies, not yours. That makes sense. Harder to detect in children. I know among other members of the club, I feel that I am on the older end, still considered by them to be young enough, considered a part of the club, but I can understand sorts of mistakes that they make, how easily they fall for manipulation, disrespect for authority and pre-established systems. So there are times where I feel as if I'm seeing older versions of myself through them, but then they refuse to change. They refuse to become older and change their ways. They just forever remain as a rebel, someone to bring about chaos and dismantle. It makes me worried about the future generations in Red Acre if all of the youngest ones appear to be the most rebellious. Yes, all his legacy is self-worship. There was a recent rumor about the place or the state of mind that was referred to by as saturation control. Someone claimed they had visited this place very recently, and it was discussed that there are different levels of saturation indexes. That mine was particularly high. And if there's truth behind this report, what sort of saturation index would these individuals considered to have? Is there a certain quality about them that makes them higher candidates for such treatment? Any sort of detectable feeling behind them? They do not speak as one. It does make sense because the ones who usually report having visited such a place are ones who are very new to Red Acre. Ones who haven't the slightest idea of what's going on. They're dragged into it. They come out of it different person. But most of all, they tend to be confused and not knowing what direction to go. But they do feel a level of intimidation, from what I can tell. Something seems to change inside them once they experience it. Yes, one or both parents failed. This may get into details that are beyond my capability of understanding, but when I came to Red Acre, I was not leaving behind any family or any parents. I came here on my own, completely alone, and immediately fell into what I felt was a new motivation to follow the song, to be a part of something bigger, and to help establish what's happening here. However, it continues to interest me as I spend time among members of the Blackout Club, but what brought them here? They talk about their own parents, and they say that their parents decided to move here, and they don't know why. Lots of people felt compelled to come to specifically Red Acre, but seem to not have been on their own accord. It makes me wonder, was it the song that caused these families to move here? Does the signal reach that far out that it can draw people from well beyond Red Acre proper? Traces of us extend beyond, yes. It was discussed earlier, too, that I recall that there's a lot of noise outside of a place like Red Acre. Saturation, their parents. And I gain a lot of wisdom from listening to the other members of the song who wander the streets. We choose them, they choose us. There's one such story told by one of the worker members of the song that was about the voices having been a part of humanity since the beginning of humanity, and that it had changed much over time. Feels as if the voices have always been a force in the development of humanity, and it seems to have changed over time. But in this modern age, it seems that the biggest threat to not only the song but other voices is this so-called noise. So my question is this noise something that can be calculated using human tools? Is it a observable thing? Or is this noise some sort of mental distraction? Is it a behavior of the human brain? Or is this noise forms of radiation, perhaps of sound, different frequencies? What sort of form does the noise take? Dissonance, word over song. And the word, as it has recently been referred to as, I believe, my understanding is a direct product of the adversary. this word humanity. It is an ancient error, travesty. I always found it very fitting that humanity is a human word, product of our own creation, something to describe ourselves, something independent of other forces or universe. This way we speak now, perverse. So slow a corruption. You have been crippled. He will save you. That makes me think about other stories I've heard about the song and figures unknown to me currently, but referred to as watchers. Such a story was told about an elderly woman who was on her deathbed, and a child was brought in, and after she died, this child was able to speak her final words. And to me it sounded like that even without a body, people can still remain part of the song. Almost feels as if a fleshless form is an ideal form when it comes to reducing the noise and making signal as clear and efficient as possible. And the story did refer to that the hospital in which this woman was in was ran by chorus, overlooked by watchers. Perhaps some sort of messengers for the song, maybe? Some sort of figure that acts as a surrogate between the living and the dead. It's likely beyond my own understanding. It may have forever remained that way, but these sorts of thoughts constantly cross my mind. Watchers simpler than this. Still you're yet supplicant. You will know more in time. As to the other, flesh, transient but required. Song endures beyond it. So as long as there's flesh, there is a host. As long as there is a host, there is a voice. A voice, there is a song. If you have shaped the song, you too shall endure. Retire. The word is as poison. I appreciate every bit of insight that can help me grow stronger, spread the influence of the song, make me all the more wiser, able to spread this knowledge to other members of the song, to use it as a way to convince those who have not decided to make their way, become part of the harmony, and to speak as one. We'll do as you wish. You'll hear a ritual sometime very soon as I collect most information I can. Serve well, we are pleased. Speak as one. Speak as one. Speak as one. I have names. The names, we thank you. Hope they can be put to some use. Of course, there are many, many more vendors, subverters to the song, but those are just a few that stood out and that I have first-hand experience with. Bit more to burn them. You burn the individuals? Fragments that they seek. Dispose of his name. Ah. There's also another alarming issue that has come to our attention lately as well. And we may be aware of it already, but that there was a member of the Blackout Club under the influence of what seems to be a currently unknown voice drove to slaughter a dove as sort of a declaration of war, perhaps some sort of form of revenge against us. And they keep being told to do such things in hopes that they are discovered by us, despite us. Dead foul, just the beginning. I mean, my instinct is to say that it's most likely the daring one seeking revenge, as he seems to be the most out for revenge. Can't really say for sure. Another is known to us. Interesting. I've noticed that among the other members here at the club that they're now starting to feel the pull. They're all being driven to separate directions. They're being behaving even stranger than usual at night. Seem to be pulled further away from the song. But the level of saturation in their minds seems to have a great effect on what they do each night, and that they have special procedures and how they treat somebody depending on which voice it is, and it's becoming difficult to keep track of how many different members of the many-headed beast there are. Some say that there's just a finite number, that there's just 8, but some say that there's perhaps more. Some say that they live and die by the sharpness of their message, something along those lines. I mean, more and more convoluted. Makes me think that why can't they just be a part of what's already pre-established? But sure, these are things that are been contemplated for a very long time.
Won't remember this. He hears it.
Apologies, I need to get into a place of safety. Want to pollute this place. Get like the outside noise. I continuously hear about the amount of noise outside of Red Acre, but that now, yeah, as we say, that they are bringing this noise closer to here.
How long did it take him to build this place?
Name begets name, signal warps. As I've spent more time down here at home, in the space, that I see and hear sounds of the instrument and the different ways in which this signal gets out to other people throughout Red Acre. It makes me wonder what sort of physical form the noise takes. As Lucids, I've seen them doing their duties wearing headphones as they get messages. I've also seen sleepers with headphones, and it makes me wonder if the song is something that can be heard by the ears, or also makes me think maybe the song is not auditory, not something that could just be heard. Any questions? But a part of it. Song is lived. I mean, when your flesh fails, will pass into the song. Is this sort of ultimate failure, or I should say, is this sort of failure ultimate failure, as in human flesh has been completely forfeit, no longer use, but more of a mental forfeit, sort of full saturation? Do you still have a physical existence, or is it forfeit as if you've passed away post-death? I've heard several stories spoken by the sleepers seem to allude to this idea of, which is the example of the woman on her deathbed, how she is put next to a child, and once she passes away, the child is able to speak the final words, ones that she did not speak previously. She was in her own flesh, but once her flesh was forfeit, it was able to be passed between other members. Spoke, not in words, yes. You know her still. You. In a similar story, it brings up an often pondered question, one that we've received some answers to, but I'm yet supplicant, perhaps not ready for the information, but that another story about a man, possibly 92, that says thinks he is a god. This snake within his mind curled up inside. And it is mentioned that the Watchers tried to save him, but they cannot. And it brings up the question of the Watchers and what sort of role that they play within the song. There's also a story of a child who is afraid of a so-called boogeyman, and at night calls it the night fear, and his mother is worried about him. But then one night within Red Acre that he's chosen, and he awakens and tell that he's been chosen as a Watcher, and he tells his mother all is well. It makes me think that this concept of a Watcher, something, a higher purpose, we've been told that part of a cycle, that there is Stalker, Lucid, Watcher cycle. Perhaps there isn't a hierarchy. Maybe it's a cycle, as implied, continues. But it still makes me think that if one is specifically chosen as a Watcher, that they have they exhibit qualities that make them different than other hosts. choose this name, Monotone? Why? It's a name that I've had with me for a very long time. It's not necessarily my flesh name, one that was given to me at birth. It's one that I've adapted, or I should say adopted, over time. Much of my lifestyle revolves around the idea of one. And like I said, when I made my way into Red Acre, I was not leaving anyone behind. There's no one else. It was all but me. Even as I sit here within subliminal media, I still remain here as one. But we know that when I speak as one, that we are all here. However, ultimately, as I stand in this room, it is just me. Much time is spent just as a singular entity. I become the monotonist as a representation of my lifestyle and the decisions I've made, and even the way that I'm speaking now is monotone. And it's also good to be self-aware, to be aware of my own choices, my own way of conversing, and people seem to recognize me for it. So it's a name I wear proudly. Many do not understand it, but it makes it that much stronger when they do not understand. We hear, we understand in part. And it became strikingly appropriate upon arriving in Red Acre that many others who also speak as one identify with this idea of mono, singular. So in the end, it worked out well. I happen to be very fortunate that consciousness has its place in the song, as we've said. This bore clarification. Well, we understand now the nature of monotonous. The adversary worships self. Oft identified with the singular. True. Your final answer. Your eyes. You speak as one, but we are but the smallest part. From other children in the club, This definitely seems to be the case. Even as somebody who feels a sense of belonging in the song, feels a level feels a level of respect within the song, there are clearly many parts of it which I do not know, many of which involve a very high, I guess you could say, dosage of saturation, and how it's put under control. And those who have witnessed such have seen and experienced things that someone of my position will likely never experience. It gives a good sense of the great extent of the song and the types of things that happen that some may never experience. It gets me excited, makes me think about all the possibilities, new growth, say old growth comes to mind, middle Hoadley, all such things which may better connect this idea of song and operations that are undergone down here at home. So much more to learn, so much more to come. Watchers. We are flawed, the air, as you saw. We watch each host, we advise. We can be lost without the host, or we can be lost with the host. As you know, some do not return. I'm getting a better sense for this concept. We do. Those who went to this hideout still have not returned. Their saturation must have reached dangerously low levels for them to have been disconnected. Suspect counteragency. I have first-hand experienced sort of counteragency. Not in the sense that I was spoken to, but in the sense that being undercover within the club, great deal of interference with the signal, as we've said. Things that happen as they black out, such as the slaughtering of the dove, things done in the name of, or things done out of spite against the song. But I'm sure there'll be much more to come along those lines, and be ever vigilant to witness, to try to encourage behavior otherwise. And whatever, since I very much enjoy speaking, I speak both power and aggregate. I'm very confident in my ability to speak. Not only speak as one, but to speak between other children. Speak, perhaps, when the time is necessary. Speak to the adversary as such when I've stood metaphorically face to face against the degenerate scion. One such example, one who's made a whole lot of noise recently, the dying one. In my past experience speaking with him, I knew so much less than I know now. To visit with such an individual, maybe not even that individual, but any others, I feel more confident than ever that I'd have the ability to say what needs to be said. Show them we are a force that cannot falter. Point out their own flaws, put them on the spot, make them realize that what they're doing is not the most desirable way. Threat profile is minimal. These hosts burn out swiftly and flees into a beach fire. Can't help but notice that the dying one seems so much more impassioned and try to convince the other children that the voice that they hear based on the description is in fact the dying one. Some choose to not believe it because he speaks in a slightly different way than he used to speak a while back. It's so much more drama, so much bigger inflections in the way that he speaks. And previously, such inflections were not present, and they choose to not believe that it is the same, but I know that it's the same. To identify and to keep track of patterns makes me stronger, makes us stronger to be able to identify how behavior can change. I'm understanding that much like humans, voices change as well. Don't always stay communicating in the same way. More so are children chaotic. It is one very distinct difference between us and them. Wax and wane, swell and recede. The measured one, in particular, who has just started to have an influence on these children. Though I have none myself, only rumors of words spoken by him, seems to at least gives the impression of a greater understanding compared to the other siblings, adversarial siblings. But the biggest difference that I see between the measured one and the dying one is that the measured one is treated in utmost respect as sort of a fatherly figure, one who advises, gives the impression of knowing more than anyone could possibly know. And that sort of perception I see as being more and more threatening as more people speak out more. That they'll take his word much more seriously than that of any other voice. He owed you answers cut short. Yes. have the tendency to really never stop questioning. We must report the names. Whatever is needed to further make use of these names. Perhaps seek out more names, but I feel that this list of 4 is the most beneficial and the most received. Ones who are likely to speak up about their experiences, and if there's anything we can do beyond that, we know where and when to find me. So yes, we will speak again. We will be watching. My eyes are our eyes.